Michael Kay didn't just call a baseball game. He narrated a statement of dominance that reminded everyone why the New York Yankees remain the most powerful franchise in the American League East. In a 12-2 demolition at Rogers Center, Kay's voice rose with each swing that turned a rivalry into a rout, his "See-ya" ringing out 3 separate times as Yankees bats sent balls into the Toronto night. By the final out, his calls were already clipped, shared, and looping across baseball feeds. This wasn't one broadcaster's enthusiasm. It was New York reminding Toronto that talent and spending only matter if you can withstand the pinstripes at full blast. The Yankees scored in 6 of 8 offensive innings, piling up 17 hits and 4 homers while holding Toronto to 2 runs on 7 hits. Aaron Judge blasted his 34th and 35th, drove in 5, pushed his average to .321, and extended his on-base streak to 23 games. Giancarlo Stanton added a 456-foot tower job, the longest at Rogers Center this season, and Anthony Volpe punctuated it with a late solo shot. Garrett Cole carved 7 innings of 2-run, 9 strikeout, 0-walk baseball, 2.78 ERA, now 11-3. It wasn't just power. 7 walks, 3 steals, and crisp situational hitting turned a big game into a 5th-inning laugher. Yes Network's broadcast matched the moment. The telecast averaged 421,000 viewers in the New York DMA, plus 34% over the weeknight season norm, and peaked at 487,000 during Volpe's "See-ya" that stretched it to 12-2. Crucially, viewers stayed. Only an 11% drop from first pitch to final out versus the typical 25 to 30% attrition when games get lopsided. Fans weren't watching for suspense. They were watching to revel in dominance, and for Kay's soundtrack of it. On social, Kay's voice became the content. His first "See-ya" on Judge's 3rd-inning blast hit 1.8 M views across Yes accounts in 12 hours. The 3 HR calls combined for 4.2 M by morning. Kay trended for 90 minutes with 47,000 mentions, while fan edits added another 2.1 M impressions. Even neutral traffic surged. The game's baseball reference page drew plus 180% page views versus a typical Yankees-Jays night. Kay's best moments mapped to context. Judge's first homer flipped a 2-2 tie and felt like the hinge. Kay captured that momentum swing in real time. Stanton's 5th-inning moonshot turned the broadcast from tense to celebratory. Volpe's 8th-inning solo shot triggered the 3rd "See-ya" joy, satisfaction, and a dash of schadenfreude that Toronto fans noticed. Rogers Center drew 38,214, 82% capacity, for a midweek tilt, solid until the 7th-inning exodus, when empty blue seats dotted the upper deck. StubHub prices slid from $67 $31 by the 6th as sellers scrambled. Tickets for the next night fell 26% post-game, $58, $43. Toronto's pitching collapsed. Jose Barrios lasted 3.2 IP, 7 R, 9 H, surrendering both Judge homers. His ERA jumped 3.45, 3.89. Against winning teams, he now carries a 5.34 ERA versus 2.67 versus sub-.500, a split that screams matchup exposure. Yimi Garcia yielded 3 in 1.1. The bullpen allowed 5 in 5.1. It was failure across phases: rotation, relief, bats, and defense, on a night that risked more than a single loss. Standings and odds felt it. New York moved to 57-41, stretching the AL East lead. Toronto fell to 54-44. Playoff odds shifted. Yankees 82.1%, 87.3%. Jays 71.4%, 66.8%. A swing representing an estimated $2.3 million in expected postseason revenue delta. It wasn't a literal must-win, but the psychological swing was unmistakable. Kay's approach remains polarizing and effective. Yankees fans love the energy. Opposing fans call it homerism. But regional networks exist to superserve their audience, and the numbers validate the philosophy. The broadcast became a product in itself, not just a window on the game. Performance trends reinforced the macro. The win was New York's 5th in 6, pushing them to 12-4 in July after a middling first half. Adjustments under Dylan Lawson showed up in discipline. a .378 OBP, and 7 walks against a staff that had allowed 2.8 BB/9. Toronto, meanwhile, slumped to 4-9 in July with a 5.23 starters ERA, was 3.41 in May, June, and a -23 run diff in their 9 losses. Individual lines deepened the narrative. Judge's 2 homers put him on pace for 57, his 87 RBIs and 1.042 OPS scream MVP tier, and he's torched Toronto all season, .391, 7 HR, 14 RBIs in 6 games. Cole's 9 KS lifted him to 148 with a 4.93 K BB, the command profile that justifies the ace label when the lights are bright. Yes, exploited the feedback loop. A single IG reel stitching K's 3 HR calls pulled 127K likes and 3,400 comments in 18 hours, plus 290% above typical highlight engagement, proof that the voice and the visuals are one product. Advertisers noticed. With CPMs running $75 to $140 and roughly 52 minutes of ad inventory per game, Yes generated an estimated $1.6 to $2.2 million from this broadcast alone, with high retention minimizing make goods and viral clips delivering free bonus impressions to in-stadium brands. Momentum shows up in behavior. Teams blasted by 6+ runs by a division rival win .463 over their next 5. Winners post .562. Not fate, just tendency. Social mirrored it. 82% positive sentiment on Yankees posts versus 14% on Jays. Yankees hashtags saw 340K uses to 89K for Toronto. r/NYY peaked at 47K uniques. r/Toronto Blue Jays dipped to 19K. Online energy followed on-field energy. History framed it. New York's multi-decade edge over Toronto is one of MLB's more lopsided long-haul rivalries, and recent years, though tighter, still tilt Yankees. Since 2015, New York's gone 94-82 versus the Jays, .534, and 12-7 in 5+ run games. When either team lands a haymaker, it's usually the Yankees. Brand scale widens the gap. Yankees' social followings outpace Toronto roughly 4:1, is almost equal to 16.8 M versus 4.3 M, but engagement around this game widened it further, is almost equal to 4.2 M versus 1.1 M impressions. Payrolls likewise diverge, $289 million versus $229 million, about $60 million of marginal edge translating to several seasonal wins that compound in tight races. Media economics underline why nights like this matter. Yes's value rests on appointment Yankees viewing in an era of cord-cutting. Dominant games with sticky audiences strengthen ad rates, distributor leverage, and DDC pitches. Sponsor halo effects piled up too. One partner's signage rode K's viral clips to 7x typical impressions at no extra cost. Gambling followed. Yankees-related handle surged. Judge HR props paid out big, and public money leaned hard toward New York even at chalk prices, evidence that stars and brands move markets. Projections ticked up. Fangraphs bumped Yankees playoff odds to 91.6% and division odds to 68.7% after the surge. A top 2 seed and wild card bye would raise their series odds materially. Toronto's path tightened with a tougher remaining slate and dipping probabilities, making every roster decision feel heavier. Deadline calculus sharpened. New York may chase rotation depth behind Cole, buying marginal October certainty with prospect capital. Toronto must decide whether to add, hold, or reshape around a rotation wobbling at the wrong time. One blowout didn't decide their seasons, but it clarified the stakes. Culturally, K's calls turned a mid-July game into a shareable memory. For a generation, his SIA is Yankees baseball, emotion attached to evidence. That's the job at its best. Amplify the spectacle without losing the story. The Yankees supplied the power, K supplied the soundtrack. The market supplied the receipts. The synthesis and the tension remain. Some want neutral play-by-play. Others want unfiltered joy. On this night, the audience's verdict was overwhelming. The Yankees dominated. K celebrated. And the AL East felt smaller for Toronto as New York's voice and bats made the point loud enough for the entire division to hear.